Hello and welcome to the NFL Red Zone Tight End Analysis Podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He's Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Of course, final week of the regular season here, and there are some games that matter, but ultimately we're just looking at good matchups here. Teams trying to finish the season strong because as far as the contending teams, there's not a lot of guys that are tight ends that really are in great spots here. But starting off with a guy who we thought was going to be a big player last year, didn't really do much, but last couple weeks has actually been really good. Zach Ertz for the Philadelphia Eagles. We got Sam Bradford, of course, now. I'll say playing better. I don't want to necessarily say he's playing good. He's playing, I guess he is playing good. But I'm hesitant to compliment the guy, I guess. But Zach Ertz has got a good matchup against the Giants team that gives up a ton of passing yards. And obviously this one's still a rivalry game. It doesn't actually matter for either one. But it'll be a fun game to watch because neither one of these teams plays very good defense.
Yeah, and Vegas is expecting to shoot out there, 51 overall total, and Philly's got a nice 23 team total there. So he's been playing really well over the last couple weeks. 37 targets over the last 3 weeks is just a whopping number, and 26 receptions in there. So, like you said, the Giants have been awful defensively against the pass and allowing the second most fantasy points against opposing tight ends. So, for Ertz price, best points per dollar play among the tight ends this week.
Yeah, certainly. Next up, a guy who we always seem to talk about and just always seems to be under-owned. That might not be the case this week, but Delaney Walker for the Tennessee Titans in a good matchup here against a Colts team that technically has something to play for. I know you've got your Colts pride on your head there, and it's not over yet. There's still a chance, but either way, this is one where, Delaney Walker is the obvious top option in this passing attack, really in this offense overall. And it's not even close. So you imagine if they're going to be scoring any points, it's going to come through Delaney Walker, and he should see a decent amount of volume as he usually does.
Yeah, he saw 15 targets last time with Mettenberger under center, and he averages 8.5 per game. I know we can always kind of rely on targets with Walker. That's why he's one of the safer plays. And guy has 85 receptions on the season, which is kind of an astounding number for tight end. And he's going to cross over the 1,000-yard mark this week. He just needs 6 more yards to go. So should be a solid game against the Colts defense, who's been playing pretty well of late because their offense has been horrible, so they need to step it up. But still, Walker is a safe guy on DK with that full-point PPR, and it should be a pretty safe week under Ertz as my number 2 tight end.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Next up, Zach Miller, another one of these guys, or I guess another being one of them, not another as far as this actual podcast, but Zach Miller stepped into a bigger role, of course. Now you've got Alshon Jeffrey. They say out for the season. I don't know why they couldn't just say out for one game. There's no more games for the Bears. But either way, potential that Matt Forte could sit in this one as well. Obviously, Martellus Bennett, the direct benefactor here from his absence. So there's really no options in this Bears passing game. We've seen Eddie Royal have his opportunities and pretty much blow them every single time. So Zach Miller going to see plenty of targets here, and he's got a really good matchup. So I think he gives you a nice floor, and if he gets red zone looks, I don't know who else is going to get the red zone looks, then he certainly has some upside also.
Yeah, I really like Miller this week, and he did not practice yesterday on Wednesday, but I can't really see him not playing this week. I think it's just a minor issue with the toe. But either way, he's in a great spot this week. 8 targets last week with Alshon Jeffrey out, 18 receptions in the last 3 weeks, and Detroit's allowed the most receiving touchdowns to opposing tight ends this season, so you got to like Miller as being the focal point in the passing game this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Travis Kelce of the Chiefs, obviously this is a team that actually still has something to play for, and he hasn't had the Gronkowski type of season as everyone, last year and this year, kind of hoping he explodes with that huge upside, but this is just not the type of offense that needs him to post up those big numbers, but he's been a big part of the passing game. He gets targets, he gets red zone looks, and, this is one of the best, most balanced attacks in all of football now, even with Jamal Charles out. I certainly wouldn't want to face this team if Jamal Charles was there right now as well as they've been playing. But, they've got a good tight end. They've got a wide receiver now, so they could do everything. And Travis Kelce definitely the biggest target for Alex Smith.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what you mentioned about being a balanced offense. It really helps out Kelce, but it also kind of limits him just a little bit. But we know he kind of has that upside we've seen at the beginning of the season. We saw it last year, certainly. So against Oakland, who have been better of late, they still have allowed the 4th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. And Kelsey's been, featured in the passing game quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, and it's kind of shown in the success of Alex Smith. He's got 12 catches, 116 yards, and a score over the last 2 weeks. So I mean, he's a red zone threat. He's just definitely a guy who's consistently going to have that upside. It's just a matter of the fact is he going to hit it or not? Because we have seen some low floors from him.
Yeah, yeah. This definitely, it probably is a little bit contingent on what's happening in the other games, but they certainly have a ton to play for. So if I'm the Chiefs, I'm going out trying to score as many points as possible and get that win. But either way, you imagine they'll probably be winning this game anyway. Rob Gronkowski for the Patriots, another team who early in the season just looked unstoppable. Didn't look like they would need to be playing in Week 17 for anything that actually mattered. But they need a win or Broncos lost to lock up their home field advantage. They're already going to get a bye either way. So, the Patriots, with something to play for, these guys are going to get run. They tend to get run later than they should in blowouts anyway. So that's never really a concern for a guy like Gronk. And this is a really, really bad Miami team. I mean, this is a team that the Patriots, if they're firing on all cylinders, then, they can have their way with them. And we've seen that before. And the first matchup wasn't very pretty either. Miami barely got on the board. I think they lost by 29 points or something like that. So this is an ugly situation for the Dolphins.
Yeah, and Gronkowski's he's your riskiest tight end, I guess you could say, just because his salary is super high. And, he hasn't been Gronk-like over the last maybe 6-7 games. It's only been really that Jets game that he had the big line there. And he did post a 6-catch, 113-yard and a touchdown against Miami last matchup. And I know if you can get those numbers for his price, it's pretty solid. And kind of looking at the team total of 29 points there, you got to imagine hopefully Gronk gets his targets in this offense that's kind of hindered by injuries right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But as we know, monster upside. He's still the best tight end in the league. And the Patriots, as we know, like to unleash their players in games that really matter. So we certainly could see a Gronk game, and I wouldn't mind one because I've been kind of waiting for that big one for it seems like months now. But maybe we get one more before the playoffs here. But either way, that'll wrap things up here for us for Week 17 Tight End Analysis Podcast. Find us on Twitter at DFCafe, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out the rest of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.